Good morning from New York City, and a very warm welcome to all our viewers from around the world. My name is Sunny Misser, and I'm going to be the host of your fireside chat today. Our guest is Mr. Abdullah Jum'ah, and Mr. Jum'ah needs very little introduction. In fact, if I were to introduce him, it might take the course of the rest of this session, so I'll keep my remarks brief. But before I begin, I would like to thank our hosts and sponsors for this very important and relevant event that they bring to us every year. My good friend and chair, Professor Peter Easton, is the first I'd like to thank. Okay, of course, it has been Peter's vision with the Center for Accounting Research and Education at the University of Notre Dame, but I would also like to thank, in no particular order, the Climate Action Group, the United Nations Environmental Program Finance Initiative for bringing us this event, and the Sustainable Investment Forum of North America. Last but not the least, I would like to thank my good friend Josh Carroll, who heads Duna Films, that's making this extensive recording across the world seem as seamless and effortless as possible. And Josh, I'd like to thank you for both your patience, your competence, but most importantly, your cheerful disposition as you've gone through this process with the innumerable little bugs and fixes. So thank you all. Now, introducing Mr. Jum'ah is a daunting task. Mr. Jum'ah, just at the highest level, I'll give you a skim through his background. He's the former president and chief executive officer of the Saudi Arabian oil company, also called Aramco, which also happens to be the largest company in the world. For over 10 years, until very, very recently, he served as the chairman of the Saudi Investment Bank. He also serves as the current co-chair of the United States Saudi Arabian Business Council. Mr. Jum'ah has served on several boards, and I will just name a few to begin with: Halliburton Company, the J.P. Morgan Chase International Advisory Council, Schlumberger Company, Saudi Arabian Airlines, Saudi Arabian Mining Company, Ma'aden, the Reliance International Advisory Board, the MIT Corporation Visiting Committee for Engineering, and of course, he has for a long time been the former member of the International Business Council at the World Economic Forum. Needless to say, a little note that I am honored and delighted that he still continues to serve on our board at Accountability for the last decade, advisory board. Mr. Jum'ah has been named on numerous occasions by Fortune, Forbes, Financial Times, and other leading publications around the world as one of the most influential, most powerful, but importantly, respected business figures around the world, right? So, Mr. Jum'ah, first and foremost, before I go into this session, a heartfelt welcome from the entire community around the world that is not just grateful, but delighted to have you in our presence today. So, kind sir, alaikum salam, shukran, and thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I'm delighted to be with you today.
It is our honor, sir. This year's fireside chat, as always, is going to focus on the theme of leadership. And there is a lot of discussion in this conference about ESG, about reporting, about compliance, about stakeholder engagement, about metrics. But this critical role of leadership, as exemplified by Ms. Jum'ah, has often been overlooked in the aspect of its soft skills, its emotional intelligence, and other traits through relationship building that become a critical part of not transactional, but transformational relationships. Okay? So as we go through this conversation, I'm going to say less and request Mr. Jum'ah to say more. My first question to you, sir, is appropriately titled From Mailroom to Boardroom. And I will give our listeners and viewers some additional context of what I mean by that. Starting as a very young man in 1959, he rose to become the president and CEO of the company in 1995. Now, the meteoric journey from mailroom to boardroom is nothing short of a miracle. In Arabic, we call it mu'jiza or karamat, but of course, Mr. Jum'ah will be correcting my Arabic throughout this interview. But this miracle, and I paraphrase, ladies and gentlemen, I paraphrase because it is truly a powerful experience. His early reviews as a mail boy at the Saudi Aramco company in Dhahran, and I read, he doesn't require frequent rest and water breaks. He is reliable and always arrives on time. He covers long distances in good time, and my all-time favorite, he has a cheerful disposition, which he absolutely does. Okay? Mr. Jum'ah, there is very little I can say about this journey, but I can ask a lot of questions that all our viewers are asking. From a professional standpoint, I just have one question. How did this happen? Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you, my friend. I can't say that this is a peculiar case. I think we have many people in my country that went through the same journey. And I think because I was born and raised in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that did happen because of that, and until today, people take the benefit of free education. I had free education from elementary to college. When there was a problem going from one village to the other to go to study, the government provides support. And therefore, I think the first element is it happened because it was in Saudi Arabia, and this is very important. I think the second thing is I was serious. I was, from the very beginning, three things that I focused on unconsciously, but I did. Work when there was an ability to work. Sports. I play soccer from very early childhood, and on self-development. But I think maybe I would speak about my first job, because that was something new, and I joined Aramco in 1959 as a summer student. In fact, I worked in Aramco two consecutive summers, both in the engineering department, and my title was office boy. An office boy means carrying files from really between secretaries of the different departments. But that very job gave me a lot, actually, because that job gave me self-confidence first, is to talk to several people. Most of the secretaries at that time in Aramco were wives of Aramco employees. And therefore, I had the ability to go and talk to them, practice my English. But the other thing is, for some reason, whether it is their questions, whether at my own behest, I started to talk to them about our culture. I'm interested in our culture, in our life, in our family, in my surroundings. And what I was interested in the history of Al Khobar, my hometown. And Al Khobar was created. My father was maybe one of the first 100 people that touched a virgin beach and created huts made of wild palm trees and lived there until today. Today, Al Khobar is a cosmopolitan city, under 1 million people population. But when my father was there were probably 100 or 200 people that came and set foot there. So I think in that job, I felt that all the secretaries liked to talk to me. I spent 2 summers, actually. I know the first summer they noticed that I had only 1 shirt that I must have washed at night, because it's the summer, so I must have washed it at night and wore it in the morning. So they saw me with the same shirt for 3 months. So at the end of the summer, they gave me actually a nice gift on behalf of all the secretaries in the engineering department, and it was a nice, beautiful, checkered T-shirt, which it stayed with me for quite a number of years, just as a memento of those years. But I did wear 2 years as a male boy. That job gave me a lot of contact with people, confidence to talk to people, confidence to answer their questions, and of course, together with the sports and self-development, which I hope we'll talk about it later today, is interest in reading, interest in knowledge, and so on. That is the story of the male boy that rose to the helm.
Well, Mr. Jum'ah, just listening to this is nothing short of a miracle. And when you talk about your late father, may he rest in peace, having started off as probably one of the 50 families, Mr. Jum'ah, I was talking to some local historians. It was even earlier, and starting in a thatched hut. For the record, for all our viewers, Mr. Jum'ah, none of Mr. Jum'ah's homes around the world look like a hut anymore, but they are very comfortable abodes, I might add. But this is a remarkable story, which leads me to my next question. You spoke about the importance of Saudi Arabia in shaping and building you as to who you are today. And I can completely attest to that fact, because after you have come generations of young Saudis who have had the benefit of free education, free support, and a huge role that the government has played in their development to be the future generation of leaders. But I also think your triad of sport, work as in communication, and other development, communications and soft skill development are very critical when you look at the journey. Now, if I can take a moment, sir, to talk about your personal lives, which is equally remarkable. And we talked about the professional life being from mailroom to boardroom. The personal life has been what I call from pearl diving to the ivory tower. And for our viewers, I'll give a little bit of context. Mr. Jum'ah's father started his life as a pearl diver in the Gulf. And it wasn't an easy task. It was very demanding on the physical body. And of course, there was no benefit of Western technology or equipment. Sadly, his father passed at a very young age, and he was raised in a family, a large family, by his mother and maternal grandmother. Mr. Jum'ah was born in a family of 10 siblings, and he often jokes with me, we were a good Catholic family. And I'll leave it to you to take it from there, ladies and gentlemen. But there were 5 boys and 5 girls. And it is remarkable to all the stereotypes that might be there, that all 5 of these girls were educated, went on to actually teach with advanced degrees and contribute to the growth of Saudi society. Your father passed away too soon, and he had gone blind. And as your mother and your maternal grandmother raised your family, Mr. Jum'ah, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and the strong early influences on your life which shaped you and developed you and had a critical part of your growing up? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, when I was born, the pearling industry had disappeared. The pearling industry had 3 hits, actually, in the 1920s. The Great Depression, the cultured pearls of Japan, and the advent of the oil industry in the Gulf. Because the advent of the oil industry gave those people that for generations were in the pearl diving, which is a horrible industry, which is serfdom actually, they gave another opportunity to do other business. And therefore, the oil industry, the pearling industry disappeared, and particularly after a big storm that hit the pearling fleet in the Gulf in 1924, and that was probably the end of the industry, of course, together with the other 3 elements that I spoke about. But my father also suffered as a pearl diver, because in that tragedy of the storm that hit the fleet in 1924, my father, who was married before my mother, had one son, and he lost that son during the storm. I have an account from my uncle who was with my father on the boat, and he said, I insisted to your father to give me the son when we saw debris coming from the desert, and we saw the storm and so on. He said, I knew your father was weak-hearted, and I wanted to have the boy, and he held to the boy. But when the storm stopped and there were many people lost their lives, he lost his son. So all his life, he had a sad life. He married my mother. He must have been much older than my mother, and because his first wife died before, so we had 5 boys and 5 girls. But my mother was learned the Holy Quran. She memorized the Holy Quran actually, and she opened a school in our house to teach boys and girls the Quran, and for some reason, until she lived, God bless her soul, until she was close to probably 100. And she kept saying that people saw me chiding you children, asking you to go to school. One of her relatives, who was a small contractor, and he had money and he had children, and he says, Latifa, that is her name, Latifa chides her children to go to school because she's poor. I don't chide my children because I have enough money to cover them and cover their own children. And my mother kept saying, education will be important in the future. She told us this when she was 100. She said, I kept saying education will be important in the future. And therefore, she raised 10 children, and they all were educated with high degrees. And I think this is the effect. This is one. The second is my oldest brother was what they call really a genius. He was encyclopedic. He was interested in many things. He was a poet. He was a linguist. He was an astronomer, and before his death, he was known as the weatherman of Saudi Arabia. In fact, when he was studying in the United States, his name appeared in Who's Who in America because he was a top student. He probably was the best performer for all the people that went to the U.S. to study during that time. So I think the influence of my mother and my brother and the influence of being in Saudi Arabia, I think these 3 elements really worked to put me where I am or I was at that time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jum'ah, for a very helpful context regarding childhood and the growing years, especially when you talked about the impact to the pearl industry in the 1920s, starting with the Great Depression, the development of cultured pearls in Japan, and of course the advent of oil in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Because clearly the advent of oil and gas in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been so transformative when you look at the history of the country. And now you look at it as a diversification way beyond oil into a multitude of different industries, including service industries, manufacturing industries, infrastructure, and transportation. As we look back, we look forward. And one of the key themes that we wanted to touch in this discussion was the lost art of soft skills, relationships, emotional intelligence, and the ability to bring large groups of individuals along to a shared purpose and a shared vision. Now, there's no one who does that better than you. It would be interesting to have a little bit of insight and introspection into the person that Mr. Jum'ah is, because he seldom discusses this with anyone, and he's far too modest to talk about himself. You know, Mr. Jum'ah has a personal library of well over 2,000 books. Equally interesting, as a devout Muslim, he has multiple and varied copies of many religious texts, starting with the Bible, one of which weighs over 35 pounds. So obviously he does not live in a small home. He has copies of the Quran, the Hindu Vedas, the Sikh Granth Sahib, Buddhist scriptures. In fact, Mr. Jum'ah even spent an entire day in the mountains of Korea at the invitation of a senior CEO, getting acquainted with a Buddhist monk because he wanted to understand how the man thought. Mr. Jum'ah, you're a keen student of theology, but more importantly, you believe God is too big to live in one household, and you respect all religious beliefs, which is rare in this day and age. You're an avid reader and fond of languages. In fact, he is familiar, and I can vouch for that, with at least 4 languages: Arabic, English, French, and yes, Korean, that one day in the mountains must have paid off with a monk. Okay? In fact, he is very quick to correct my language, so whenever I speak any form of Hindi, Urdu, or Farsi, he will quickly remind me that it's nothing but basic Arabic. So with that, Mr. Jum'ah, bottom line, you're far from a typical CEO or even a typical human being. But what would be very helpful is if you could tell our viewers, what role have soft skills provided you, and emotional intelligence, relationship building, in navigating not only the world's largest company, but handling this company through geopolitical transition, through world change, and what is it that leaders could take away from this? Over to you, sir.
Well, first, let me just comment on a few things that you said. You mentioned how many books in my library. A friend of mine a wise friend of mine told me that the day one starts counting the books in his library, you know for sure that he is not a reader. So I never counted the books in my library. I don't know 4 languages. Yes, I know Arabic, and I hope I know English. French, I want to go Hungary in Paris, but that's the extent of my French. Korean, I can decipher the alphabet, but no, I don't know Korean. I can probably read it slowly, and if I hear it, I can write
That's
it.
remarkable. You can read it slowly.
And I know a few words in Koreans and a few Korean songs. But that's the extent. Now, the importance of religion is very important in human life. I think religion also brings values, strong values, to all their followers. There is no religion that will encourage you to kill or maim or do bad things. Religions, on all religions, tell you to be a good person and a human being, and that's why I am interested in religions and reading about different religions. But there is another aspect, because also religion shapes the personality of people. And today, we are working with people from the four corners of the world. And these people, to understand them, to understand what ticks with them, to respect them, you have to understand something about their beliefs. And I found that it's extremely important to know what moves people. When I was the first organization to bring Saudi Aramco outward, this is after the Gulf War. Ali Naimi, His Excellency Ali Naimi, former Minister of Petroleum, my predecessor as CEO of Aramco, he said, I will not allow that I find myself in the same place I was in during the Gulf War. During the Gulf War, we were not prepared. That was a black swan event for us, but we navigated through it. And he said, going forward, we are going to be an internationally integrated energy enterprise. And he said it, actually, I can quote him, we will be eye to eye, nose to nose with the Chevrons of the world, with the Exxons of the world, and with the Mobils of the world, and not Mobil has gone by that time, and the Shells of the world. And he chose me to what he said, to realize my vision to make Aramco an internationally integrated energy enterprise. That necessitated that I understand other peoples. Of course, I have always been reading about other cultures. I'm interested in the novel, in literature, and theater, and music, and so on. But he said in his book that I chose Abdullah Jum'ah for that job because Abdullah Jum'ah can connect with the others. And I think that ability to connect with the others is because I knew something about other cultures. And we found this to be extremely important when we went to invest in China, in Korea, in India, in Japan, and other parts of the world. So that is my interest in world culture, because it is very helpful in trying to understand people. And we work today with people from all countries, or many countries. Aramco has around 50 nationalities working for them. And if I work with a Chinese on one side, English on the other, Indian on the other, and whatever, American, and so on, I have to understand something about their culture so that we work in a healthy environment. And I think that is one thing. Now, on the art of soft skills, of course, I came with the difficulty of not having the hard skills of the oil industry. I'm the first Aramco president without an engineering degree. But I found that leadership needed a lot of the hard skills. I can do that by bringing the right people. And from the very beginning, I decided to bring people who were much smarter than I am. And people say, don't bring a strong man or woman working for you. I am against that. I would bring a strong individual to come near me, because a strong individual will strengthen me, a weak individual will weaken me. And I think I hope I built a very powerful team of huge tigers, and I tried. My ability is to work with these people. And when they come and present me, they used to come and present me things on horizontal drilling, on technical issues and so on. I admit and tell them, please talk to me in 101 engineering, 101 rather than 504 or whatever it is. And they understand. So this is one aspect. I think one very important aspect we have done, my team and I did in the company, is talking to individuals in the company and telling them that every individual in the company, wherever he is, can make it or break it to the company. I talked to the young operators in the offshore, onshore, and the desert, and so on, and told them your omissions and commissions are very important for the companies. I also told them that I don't want anybody in the company to be a twig in a big bundle. If you remove that twig or put it back, nothing happens to that bundle. I want everyone to be a big piece of wood, so that if you remove it, the bundle shakes. And we have seen it in the industry. We have seen huge organizations collapse because of the omissions or commissions of individuals. So we really focused on the individual and the company, my team and I. And I just want to mention something, that when I was appointed CEO and I was attending a seminar in the company, a seminar that we give to our managers, one of the managers asked me, what is the legacy that you want to leave in the company after you retire? I was just appointed. I said, my God, literally just be just a few days on my seat as CEO. And now you are talking to me for retirement. He said, after retirement, what legacy you want to keep? And I told him he said, what do you want to be known as? And I said, I want to be known as the one who let the genie out of the bottle. And what I meant with that is that I found that in the company we have powerful people. We have brain power, but that brain power is not being worked at its capacity. We also had young generation, young men and women who are coming from colleges and great institutions, but the leadership on top of them is of the old mentality. So there was a blockage of ideas. What we did, I asked at that time, how many patents that the company had. Of course, because, we were an American company for many years, and only in 1988 we were a Saudi company. So, and in the old days, any patents done under the American company goes to the owners. So when I asked in 2001 how many patents that the company owns, we had only 20 patents. And we are the biggest producer of oil at that time, and we had only, I think, 20 patents. And we created a system where we told people, look, we encouraged them. Everybody, from the top to the bottom, any idea that gives us, even an idea that gives us $1 in additional revenue, or it cost, or give us a safety idea and so on, come with it. And in the first 6 years, we had 60,000 new ideas coming to us, just because we opened, we relaxed the workforce. We asked them, just come and give us your ideas. I asked day before yesterday the people in Aramco how many patents that Aramco, what is the pattern is going in Aramco, and they said that in 2024, the patents that Aramco received from US patents, actually, which are the most difficult. I asked how many patents. They said the patents granted to Aramco in 2024 is twice the total of patents granted to Exxon, Chevron, Total, and the French. So and Total, of course. So the total of the big oil companies was only 50% of what Aramco got. So this is part of, when we talk about soft skills, it's just touch the hearts of the individuals. And now, you see, Aramco is not the Aramco that we saw in the early 2000. Aramco is a great company today, thanks to the people in the company that really, their mind is open. And when I talk to the people today in Aramco, these are different people. These are not the type of people that I run. These are people that have gone in their thinking, in their ability, in their communication. I'm very happy to see that.
Mr. Jum'ah, there is a wealth of wisdom in what you've just said. And clearly, it would take a while to capture all of it. But what is remarkable is, having been in the consulting business personally for over 3 decades, especially serving the oil and gas and the energy industry, in addition to financial services and healthcare, I can truly say, based on experience, that Aramco today is truly an internationally integrated energy enterprise. And this is thanks to the vision of Mr. Naimi, yourself, and all the wonderful people who have made this a reality. But the key points that you have mentioned here was the ability to connect with others, and connect with others in a meaningful manner. From CEOs and heads of states to servers in restaurant, a small little French bistro, and I won't go and name people, but where the server still remembers you 2 decades after you sang with him a famous song after closing hours. Hiring people who are bigger than one and smarter than one is an extremely, extremely critical aspect, something that has been shared by other leaders. But when you talk about building a powerful team of individuals, the analogy of a bunch of twigs And if you remove a twig breaks versus a strong log of wood. Where you said every individual can make it or break it is a very powerful statement. And it takes a lot to make it happen. It is easy to say it, but to take it from 20 patents to 60,000 ideas in 6 years is nothing short of, and I use the same word, miraculous, over and over again. But you know, this leads me to a question that you briefly touched upon about leadership and legacy and the next generation. So you have clearly, very early in your CEO career at Aramco, in the first few months, outlined your legacy. But after that, you've gone and become the chairman for a decade of a very large bank. You've served on several boards. You've led several transformations. At this point, what would you wish your human legacy to be? Is it any different because you're a different person today? And what advice would you give a teenager, Abdullah Jum'ah, from 1959 today, based on what you know today? And that would give us an idea as to what kind of leadership this world needs to succeed in the future, sir. Over to you.
I think I would probably, the first thing is that to tell young people, have humility. And humility is not a question of be weak in front of others and so on. Humility is the ability to know yourself, know your weaknesses, and know your strengths. But the most important aspect of humility is that you as a leader don't have all the answers. If you realize that you don't have the answers, then you can talk to your team, you build the right team, you find the team that can work together. So I think humility in its grand meaning is extremely important, and I preach this to my children who are also professionals, and I preach it I preached it in the company, and I preach it to young people who ask me. I think the first thing is humility. I think the second thing I've always, and I spoke about it now, is don't be afraid of bringing powerful people around yourself. This is very important. You know, people tend to say, I'm not going to bring a strong somebody strong around me. There is one of our Arab greatest poets says, whoever brings a lion to be his hunting bird is crazy, which means that don't bring somebody very strong around you. I disagree with that. I and my team were very powerful tigers. But you know, there is an Arab scholar 1400 years ago that said beautiful thing, and I apply it to leadership. And he says, you can, when you come with a very powerful people around you and so on, and you meet your opponents, people are scared of you because of the strong people that are around you. But he says, you are like somebody who is riding over a lion. He says, when you attack your enemies or your opponents with people that you don't trust, so there is ability of trust. If you have trust, then you are strong. He says, if the people that you are leading, you are not trustworthy, then you are attacking on people with riding a lion. Okay, people are scared of you, but you are more scared of what's under you. But you require trust, and this is very important, is to build a team that you have trust in the team. I think also I find a sense of humor is extremely important for leadership. You know, the boardroom sometimes becomes very tight, very daunting, and so on. If you relax, if you crack a joke, if you make people relax, people will work for you. Will realize that you are not somebody who is just whipping them with a stick. So I find sense of humor, and I can tell many cases where using sense of humor in negotiations and in other relationships with our customers, with our suppliers, with our partners, and so on, is a very powerful tool. So these are just some of the things, and of course, one very important is respect people. Respect people wherever they are coming from. They are people like you. You have to respect their beliefs. You have to respect their religions. You have to respect their relationships, and so on. And then in the Quran says, you have your own religion and I have my own religion, but we live together in peace. So, and that, if you can bring this to leadership, I think that's great success.
MashaAllah. These are true words of wisdom. Amen, sir. When I look back, and I have to synthesize some of this for the benefit of all the people who have tuned in, it is interesting, one of the aspects for leadership success cited by you as first in order was humility. But your definition of humility was knowing yourself, your weaknesses, your strengths, and understanding that you don't have all the answers. So build the right team. And that is a very interesting take, because a lot of people mistakenly view humility as weakness, vulnerability, diffidence, lack of confidence, or being unsure and insecure. And you have said quite the opposite. Your comment about bringing smart people to the table, in fact, bringing people who are much smarter than we are to create a company of giants, is so very true. You talk about trust, and then, of course, you talk about sense of humor, and I can attest to that. Without a doubt, besides being one of the most effective CEOs in business circles that I have ever had the privilege to meet, you are definitely the funniest one by a mile. You have very little competition in terms of your sense of humor, which is a direct result of your intelligence, sir. But I think when you talked about respect, it wasn't just a fake and a superficial sense of respect of bowing in front of people. You talked about three things. You said respect people's beliefs, respect people's religions, and respect people's relationships. And I think, I could go on. You live your life of respect. Every time I have had the privilege of being in your company, I notice you not for what you do, but for how others react to you. And you have evoked some of the most positive reactions from doormen, from drivers, yes, from mailroom boys and servers in nice restaurants we have visited. And that says more to me than getting the respect of CEOs, chairmen of boards, and heads of state, because that is a granted given. Mr. Jum'ah, the next question brings us to the end of a very illuminating session. But this is my favorite round, because it's called a rapid fire round. You are not given a long time to think, but the rapid fire round is to understand you more as a human being, as a person. What do you like? What do you dislike? And do you do things like normal people do, right? Because clearly what you have shared with us in this session is not just remarkable, but it is at a very different level of performance. So in no particular order, I'm going to ask you a few personal questions, sir. I'm going to ask you things like, what do you like to eat? What do you like in terms of music? So let me start in no particular order. Can you please name your favorite movie of all time? And the timer is on, sir.
Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It's a movie, very old movie that I saw as a student, and I think it is a great lesson. It's actually Betty Davis and Joanne Crawford, and it's a critique of the fleeting nature of fame. And I tell many people who are in very important positions is that don't think that life is going to be the same when you were in a position and now out of that position. Some people get extremely sick because of the lack of attention that they were getting when they were in a certain important job. When they come to a majlis, they bring them to the front. And now, when they bring, after they retire, now they come to a majlis and there is someone else who's now in their position and so on. And people, and I have told people, many of my friends, is if you can't adjust to the new life, you are going to be in deep depression. And that movie is and I remember it. I remember it since I was a student at the university. I saw it in the early 60s. That movie says, if you are famous and you are no longer famous, you are going to be depressed. And that goes for leaders of the industry and leaders in any discipline.
That is a very insightful answer, particularly given the context. And for the benefit of our viewers, a majlis is a congregation of senior elder folks in the community that gather on a routine basis to discuss issues of relevance and importance to the community that they belong to. Having mentioned your movie and why, can you please tell us, and you can only give one answer, what is your favorite city in the world? I think it starts, oh God. Okay, Well, at least he named an American movie. Occasionally, he may say other things that I don't agree with. I was hoping he would spell London as Neyyork, the greatest city in the world. Mr. Jum'ah, can I ask you your favorite song of all time?
You know, Can't Be Friends, Ella Fitzgerald, and Louis Armstrong. That is because every time I hear that song, I remember a lot of classical Arabic poetry. You know, it's pre-Islamic poetry is when many of our Arab poets, when they are in love, and then the life separates them, they just hope to have either a look at the lover, hearing her in a congregation, or if she disappears with her tribe, the scent of her coming with a breeze coming over the horizon is so. That's what she says. If they can't be lovers, he's going to tell me, can't we be friends? And to me, that is, I don't know. My heart breaks when I hear Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. I love jazz, and this song is just I hear it. I hear it probably every week here at home.
This is very, very touching and very insightful, and certainly reflective of who you are as a person, with who you are and how you feel. Well, so far we're doing extremely well for the United States of America. 2 out of 3 have gone in favor of the U.S. This one might not. My next question. Your favorite food or meal, and Mr. Jum'ah, I might qualify this. Champagne does not qualify as a food class, neither does caviar. So we have to stick to common man's food. What is your favorite food and meal of all time?
A fish, if I catch it myself.
And I will attest to that, that he has multiple fishing docks at his homes, and he does catch. But that's a completely different program about what he throws back versus what he keeps, and how he uses every piece of sustainable fishery in principle and in practice. Mr. Jum'ah, all I can tell you is this has been a truly wonderful period of time that we have been able to spend with you. I do know that in the last literal week and a half, you've been in 3 continents. And to have you right now in wonderful Khobar, where I hope to come and visit in a few weeks, is both a pleasure and a privilege. Once again, on behalf of all of our hosts and sponsors, I would like to thank you, and I would like to thank all our viewers for the increasing engagement and attendance that you have shown to the Accountability in a Sustainable World conference every year and the quarterly, because this is what pushes and propels this very important movement forward. So, a very good morning from New York, a good evening, Saudi Arabia, and a good afternoon to London. And we thank you for your time, this broadcast. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. Been delighted to be with you, and good luck.
Thank you, kind sir.